Hi everyone, I'm Ken from Crypto Trading KS. If you're new, welcome, and welcome back to our regular community. Let's run the numbers. Bitcoin currently trading at 47,199, up 5.74%. Ethereum trading at 32.38, up 7.46%. My goal is to assist you to be more of a financial blessing and create real wealth for yourself and those you love. We're looking at the market. It's pretty green today. Very nice to see. Uni is up 8.5%. Link up 6.94%. I'd like to share rule 716 with you. Look inside, not outside. This is a very challenging rule to master. Aristotle said it really well. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Knowing yourself is the critical bridge between Zone 2 and Zone 3. What we're talking about here is KS zone analysis, the 4 stages that all investors and traders progress through to become consistently profitable. What you can see is Zone 1 is the fear zone. That's the just starting zone. Zone 2 is the blame zone. It takes a lot of self-knowledge to get into Zone 3, the patience and the rule zone. In that particular zone, we're focused on knowledge, especially forgiveness of past errors, because there's no such thing as an error. A mistake is simply an opportunity to do better next time. We're all about probabilistic fearlessness. Zone 4 is the meaning zone. As a community, we're focused on probabilistic fearlessness. That is, we understand the probabilities and we act with fearlessness according to those probabilities. If the probabilities change, we simply change our action. We're always looking to make sure we've got the right probability. Moving into Zone 4, which is the meaning zone, that's the most beautiful place to be. That's a life of authenticity, as well as meaning and fulfillment. Please be aware of scammers. If anyone asks you for money claiming to be me or representing me, they are a scammer. The only donation page I have is this site. I'd just like to say thank you to the very generous and kind people who have donated to me through buymeacoffee.com/cryptotradingks. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Rule 174, we're going to look at trend using the KS process. Looking through the news headlines of the Wall Street Journal, the US tightens focus on China after the Afghanistan withdrawal. The Taliban's swift victory was years in the making. Jobless claims fall despite Delta variant spread. The Delta variant may come for the Fed's fall plans as well. The CEO wants staff vaccinated. He's also worried they will quit. Latest Intel CEO offers workers incentives to get COVID-19 vaccines. Continuing with the news headlines, 3 vaccinated senators have tested positive for COVID-19. Crypto's DeFi projects aren't immune to regulation, Gensler says. Amazon plans retail locations akin to department stores, and Facebook hit with a new FTC antitrust lawsuit. In this particular trend episode, we look at a macro view. It's very important to make probabilities your trusted advisor, not fear. Let's look at investment substitutability. S&P 500, the proxy for stocks, is up 30%. Gold is down 9% for the past 12 months. Bitcoin is up 298% for the past 12 months. It's really important for us to understand where Bitcoin's trend is going. If it's going up, that's good. We can make probabilities based on that. If it's doing something else, we need to be aware. Let's have a look at the trend through the KS early warning system. Probably a really good thing to contextualize the trend at the moment. We're in phase 1. Phase 1 is the bull market phase. You can see we're really just beginning. To understand the movement of Bitcoin, we look at the KS model, which is a crypto technical trading model based on institutional price psychology. Basically, the market for crypto, for Bitcoin, is broken up between a bull market, a bear market, and consolidation after a particular event called the halving. It's important to only consider like psychological states. For example, comparing the sunlight of the bull market to the sunlight of the bull market, the darkness of the bear market to the darkness of the bear market, the dawn of consolidation to the dawn of consolidation. That's really, really important. A lot of people cross psychological states and then they make assumptions based on cross psychologies. That's not really a good idea. The best way I can explain it to you is, for example, in the current bull market psychology, you think about you're driving up a car, up a mountain, up a hill, and you're in the car or motorbike or whatever you're doing, and you're going up that hill and you want to know the ups and downs of that hill. Okay, to do that, where do you look? You look back to the past mountain, back to the past bull run, and then back to the past bull run. You wouldn't look at how to drive up a mountain and look back to a bear market where the market was going down 85% in value. You wouldn't do that because it doesn't make psychological sense. I'll just explain a few things here too. Please take a note of this line, the 29th of June 2019. I'll just bear that, get you to focus in there for a minute. You can see that that is a line which is one of the peaks of consolidation. There was actually a lot of things going on in here. Brexit, the capitulation just happened previously. That's the low of the bear market. We always tend to get rallies up from the lows of bear markets. Now, what happened here? There's another arrow pointing here. This is a black swan event. The recent massive increase in Bitcoin's price, and indeed all cryptos, because cryptos are all linked to Bitcoin's gravity, that massive increase was the excess liquidity pumped into the financial system from central governments all around the world. Also, we had a particular shock, which was the China miners coming offline and relocating out into the entire world. We know from our analysis that there's still a large hash rate in China, although the miners are moving out. But what happened here, that was a black swan event. Two black swan events rolled into one neat little bundle, which saw the price of crypto, of Bitcoin, fall 50% and cryptos fall about 80%. We've seen recovery. Now, why am I raising these two things? Because I want to help you to understand how to actually analyze on-chain data. We can see that this line is June 29, 2019, the actual line that I showed here, that line, which is at the top of one of those peaks. Okay, keep that one in mind. Now we're going to look a little bit more deeply into Bitcoin realized cap hodl waves. There's been a couple of people suggest that the current bull market segment is a wave 2, not a wave 1. Unfortunately, we cannot compare dissimilar psychologies. This was back in consolidation. This is not a wave 1. This is a wave 1. We expect a wave 2 to be accumulating quite shortly and a wave 3 after that. Just the same as this wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 of the past cycle. It's always best to look to the past cycle to give us much more guidance. It's really important to understand too that Bitcoin may look like a chart or a graph, but it's not. Your cryptos don't just represent numbers on a chart. There is a fundamental driver underneath crypto. That's global adoption. We talk about cryptocurrency. A very clever member of our community said we should stop talking about currency. They're crypto assets or digital assets. Absolutely agree. That's very astute and very true. Here we have the 2021 Global Crypto Adoption Index, Worldwide adoption jumps over 880%, with peer-to-peer platforms, point-to-point platforms, driving cryptocurrency usage in emerging markets. We can see Vietnam here has reached a very high level of adoption, which makes a lot of sense because very many people in Vietnam need to move money. They send money back from overseas back to Vietnam. It makes a lot of sense. For many years, I actually ran businesses inside Vietnam. I know the economy quite well. When we compare that adoption to Crypto.com's global crypto users, we can see that crypto all around the world is being confirmed from multiple sources as exponentially growing. That's why this chart is so important, to zoom out and give us a macro view. We can see the white line, total global internet users, very, very sharp increase over time. This is on an exponential scale. Crypto is growing far more quickly, and you can see that's absolutely the case. Therefore, to look back at the KS model and say, oh, the models are all broken, it's just going to collapse from here, it doesn't take into account the concept that macroeconomic growth is a really important driver of this particular model. The KS model is not simply a technical trading model. It's based on institutional price psychology. Institutions crunch numbers. They run the numbers. I know. I've worked for them. Looking at some more on-chain data, Nupal, net unrealized profit and loss, we can see Nupal is quite low. A lot of people do not understand that crypto is driven by euphoria, both positive and negative. Negative euphoria is called capitulation or surrender. It's literally when people give up. Positive euphoria is called euphoria. It's when we get exponential increases on an exponential graph. We are yet to see that. Looking at relative unrealized profit, we've had one wave, which was caused by excess liquidity. We're expecting two more. When peaks are reached, we get a lot of transactions of number of transfers to exchanges of Bitcoin, as you can see here in the past mountain cycle, the last cycle, bull market cycle. When we look to the current bull market cycle, we see very, very low transfers. This does not signify a top, which is really consistent with the probabilities that we're collecting from multiple data sources. Looking to the stablecoin supply ratio SSR oscillator, we can see a lot of money flowing into Bitcoin and therefore crypto. Bitcoin is the confidence indicator for the entire crypto market. I'd like to make you aware that the road to the top of the mountain of this particular bull market cycle is going to be bumpy, really, really bumpy. You can see here 40% decreases, 66% increases, 30% decreases. You can almost see the concept of being in a melt your face off rally, which is several 100%. We're basically down here at the moment in terms of structure. I sounded like Sean Connery then. Ooh, we had another visitor. Hi Sean. Hi Ken. Keep up the good work. As we saw with the Black Swan event, COVID crisis, Bitcoin and the stock market sold off really dramatically. We have to keep our eye on potential problems. Looking at COVID cases around the world, the cases in the last 7 days, 4,568,800. That's come down a lot. That's only a 1% increase over the preceding 7 days. That's a great sign. India, Brazil, France, Indonesia, Russia, Turkey, and Spain are all registering decreases. That's also a great sign. We really want to see decreases in this weekly case percent change column. Every day we also track total vaccine doses administered throughout the world. we can see we're in the first, second, we're in the third wave. The good thing is the death rate is coming down. Currently, 31.96% of the world's population is vaccinated against COVID-19. If you have any more data sources that you would like to share, please reach out and let me know. Let's have a look at the market indexes across the world. This information can be a little bit scary from time to time. It's really important to deal with problems when they occur, not before. We're going to see a large confluence of measures coming together if there are problems. If there are not a large confluence, we just do business as normal. We have probabilistic fearlessness. That's what it's all about. Looking across the globe, we can see that Russia had a bit of a red day, followed by China. There was a bit of red throughout Mexico and South Africa. The US, Australia, and Brazil had fairly green days. That's always good. This is the US market sector performance. We can see that information technology was the standout, with energy being the laggard. It's also helpful to just drill in on particular stocks. We can see Microsoft did quite well in the technology sector. Consumer cyclical wasn't doing too well at all. Consumer electronics, Apple did quite well. We can see a sort of a mix of red and green, not really that much happening. Different sectors operate in different manners depending on the business cycle. We can see that the US is in mid-cycle phase, China a little bit ahead, UK, Australia, Canada, Japan just a little bit behind. Let's have a look at the stock market indices throughout the world. I always start with the VIX. The VIX is the stock market's fear gauge. Fear drives markets. It's really important to understand it. We can see that the VIX spiked up, hit a resistance level and backed off. Let's have a look at the NASDAQ 100. We can see the NASDAQ 100 has been retracing. It has a level of resistance that it's still not been able to break through. What I've done is to put the inverse VIX here in this faint red line. It's just barely visible, but if you look closely you can see it. Now I've done that because I want to show you how the inverse VIX, the inverse fear gauge, is playing across the market. It's pretty interesting stuff. A few people in the community reached out and said, Ken, that's really helpful. I've never seen that before. So I just like to put it there for you. Another thing to note is this is Bitcoin's price just playing in here. Looking at the S&P 500, it's hit support. You can see how closely the Russell 2000 is matching the inverse fear gauge. Look at that. When it comes down, the Russell comes down. Comes down here, the Russell comes down. It's a fantastic way of looking at the market. After being in the markets for more than 20 years, I love to share these really secret hidden tips with you. It can make you a lot of money and help you to be more of a financial blessing to yourself and those you love. You can see the Russell has exhibited a lot of weakness. It's below resistance currently. The Dow Jones is coming up to support. It's broken through a level of support that's become resistance, but we can see a bottoming out of the rate of negative price change. Always follow that VIX. You can see the VIX is very influential on how price can move. It's really interesting to note that the VIX can actually track certain stock markets around the world as well. Look at Canada's market. It's following the inverse VIX incredibly well. Canada's market sold off. It's currently under resistance. Mexico's market has come back to support. Brazil's market has been showing a lot of weakness recently. It's under resistance. Spain's market has sold off. I can see here price wants to go up. Looking at the UK market, the FTSE 100, we can see quite a big sell-off. Italy's market also sold off. France's CAC 40 was doing very, very well, but it sold off hard recently. The Swiss market has also sold off. Germany's market is under resistance. China's Shanghai Composite Index is under resistance. China's Hang Seng Index is showing a lot of weakness. It's under resistance too. Nasdaq Taiwan is under resistance. South Korea's Kospi 200 is really selling off quite hard. A long-standing community member reached out to me by private message and shared some information about what may be happening with South Korea's market because US forces pulled out of Afghanistan. The South Korean market is a little bit worried, justifiably so, that there could be problems with US alliances in the South China region. We can see that there's a lot of military build-up there quite currently. I always appreciate community members reaching out and letting me know their understanding from the ground or different sources. I just love it. Please let me know if you're around South Korea or you're in South Korea or you have friends there. Please let me know. You can direct message me on Twitter, and you can also reach out on Facebook. This is my Twitter profile, twitter.com/StanfieldKen. Stanfield has 2 D's in it. Please feel free to reach out anytime. Japan's Nikkei 225 is still showing weakness. It's just literally at support now. Singapore's market is also showing weakness. It's just basically passed through that support line. Australia's ASX 200 has shown weakness recently. It looks to be repairing itself. India's market continues to romp upwards. It's doing really, really well. Looking across the highly economically sensitive areas, we can see the high-yield corporate bond ETF recovering slightly. Copper futures have shown a little bit of strength. That's a good thing. The airline index continues to sell off. This signifies that we've got a problem with COVID more than anything else. IYT, the US transportation ETF, is below resistance. Nasdaq transportation is holding support, but it is decreasing. The Dow Jones transportation average is also below resistance. The Dow Jones transportation average is coming up to support. The utilities is a highly defensive sector. We can see a degree of price consolidation around here, around the current price levels. Brent oil is considering repairing itself technically here at the moment. It's just the starting phases. Light crude oil is also saying, yeah, I've had enough of this downturn. I'm going to take a bit of a pause. The 5-year break-even inflation rate is also decreasing. We can see a very significant drop in the 5-year forward inflation expectation rate. That's dropped very substantially. The 10-year break-even inflation rate has also continued down. This is a really interesting occurrence. The Fed is considering tapering. Now, they were always saying we need to taper because inflation's getting out of control. We can see day by day that is not actually the case. Inflation is decreasing. The Fed could easily support ongoing fiscal stimulus, monetary stimulus. Looking at T-bond futures, it has actually bounced from support. The TLT, the 20+ year Treasury bond ETF, is increasing. You can see gold remains under a lot of overhead resistance. It's trying hard to push through this resistance, but it's not getting there. Silver continues to be really, really weak. The TNX, the 10-year Treasury note yield, is below resistance. The 30-year Treasury bond yield, the TYX, is consolidating around support. Looking at the US dollar currency index, the DXY, you can see this inverse relationship between the inverse VIX and the DXY. That basically says as fear goes up, the dollar goes up as well. I'll just put the VIX back to the normal state. You can see the VIX, the fear gauge is coming up. What is the dollar doing? It's coming up. Fear gauge coming up. Dollar coming up. They don't always 100% coincide, and that's absolutely fair, but there is a relationship between the two. Let's have a quick check of main market stocks. Apple is below resistance. Microsoft did really well. That is strong rallying behavior. Google was seeking to bounce off this support line. Instead, it lost it. It's under resistance. Well, maybe at support, but it's very close. We can see Amazon has had a tremendous amount of weakness recently. It continues to sell off. Facebook is continuing to sell off. Nvidia has some really interesting behavior. It's like it wants to party, it wants to come up, but it's getting squashed down. There's quite a bit of indecision in Nvidia's price, but it's generally positive. PayPal continues to show weakness. Looking at Netflix, we see a really big rally in price. If we look at the airline index, and we can see it's coming down. I mentioned before that this could potentially be the Delta variant playing out. I believe we're seeing a confirmation here between Netflix, which is a stay-at-home stock, and the airline's price. Very interesting. Let's keep an eye on it. Just going back to the Nasdaq for a while, around the 13th of July, I pointed out that I believe what would happen is that money would flow from the stock market into Bitcoin. The conflict in Afghanistan could be actually driving things as well. Not so much about the Afghan people, but just the concept that if a war broke out, there would need to be readily and easily transportable stores of wealth to take with people. You can imagine just taking your phone with you and it has the keys to your crypto, for example, or a hardware device, cold storage wallets, all sorts of things. This could be driving this price at the moment, a kind of cyclical reduction in stocks pushing across to Bitcoin, but it's more than that. I think that there's actually some issues globally that would drive people into Bitcoin and away from gold. And we've seen gold not do too well recently. That would seem to confirm that idea. Let's turn across to the crypto stocks. First, we start with Bitcoin's technical analysis. Bitcoin is currently trading at 47,076. We can see it bypassed this resistance quite well. It has now a level of support coming through below around the 45,830 mark. It's actually got several levels of support confirming at that 45,830 mark. It's doing quite well. This is a fairly steep wave up from the previous price around 43,853 up to 47,206. It would be very fair for Bitcoin to do a wave down to support levels and continuous march upwards. Total crypto market cap is currently $2.002 trillion. We're back across the 2 trillion mark. Well done, crypto. We can see here that total market cap is being supported. This includes Bitcoin and all the alts. This is quite a healthy movement up. Ethereum is doing quite well as well. Currently Ethereum is trading at 32.20. It has support below at 31.30 and 45 and 30, 87, 11. We can see Ethereum's crossed over this resistance. It's doing quite well. It will be coming up to a level of resistance at around 32.78. We could expect a wave down to around, for example, the 31.63 mark. That would be very healthy if it did that. we would expect Ethereum to continue moving higher. Rule 45, no alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity. Bitcoin literally controls the crypto market, but we can see it's reaching into the stock market as well. It's really important to keep in mind how important tracking Bitcoin is to whatever you're looking at. If it's in the crypto space, one of the most important things that you can ever do is to become really familiar with Bitcoin's price action and what it's doing. Let's have a look at the Bitcoin ETFs. With that in mind, as Bitcoin rallies, we would expect to see all these Bitcoin ETFs, ETNs, and funds do exactly the same. We can see Grayscale Bitcoin Trust came up 6.11% over the past 24 hours.